in any given conversation, there are always more than the express words shared in that conversation. The way, the inflection of the words, the specific words that are used in the interchange. And of course, there are the unspoken aspects of the conversation, the kind of aura that takes place in the backdrop of the conversation that could be never conveyed to anyone else who was not there. That is the truth of the Torah as well. The Torah contains so many layers, so many ways of reading it, that we could interpret it for centuries and never exhaust the possibilities. In Vayera, which is this week's Torah reading, we find that Abraham is sitting in the flap of his tent, and God visits him. That's how the Torah portion opens up, and according to the sages throughout all of the millennia, they've always understood the passage in the same way. The reason why God visits Abraham is because Abraham is ailing. Abraham is sick. He's just done this personal circumcision that has left him vulnerable and hurt and wounded, in desperate need of healing, and God visits him in order to effect that healing. And yet, there's more. There's more because we also understand that Abraham is sitting in the flap of his tent for a specific reason, otherwise he'd be lying in bed. He's really sitting in his opening of his tent because he's waiting for any passerby to happen to wander down the road near Abraham's tent so that Abraham can be hospitable, invite them into his shelter, wash their feet, share bread with them, and that is what happens when God sends a messenger, an angel. Abraham does precisely that, thinking them to be a mortal being. And yet, even a layer peeled away from this story reveals much. Because Abraham is visited by God, we understand that God's presence comes to Abraham only because of Abraham's acts of kindness and goodness. That God reflects upon Abraham's actions and so responds to him with the greatest gift of visiting him with the Shekhinah, with his holy presence. And that's the way that it is, that heaven and earth inform one another. But as far as we're concerned, as far as humanity, Judaism is concerned, we help inform heaven. We help create a bit of heaven here on earth. That what we do influences the path of God's interference in our own life. And in fact, we help make God's presence here profoundly known on the earth. One of the greatest sages of the past, Rev. Shalom of Belz, made the observation that Abraham was not just sitting in the flap of his tent. He was sitting at the flap of eternity. That behind him, behind Abraham, was Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. And Abraham tried to lead people into that place by gently bringing them closer to God. And perhaps this is the most profound truth of them all, that by small acts of kindness, we bring people closer to Garden of Eden. We bring people closer to a relationship and a dynamic not only with God, but allows and affords at the same time all of humanity a glimpse of something far more powerful than themselves. What a wonderful gift God has given us.